Hey guys, this is an interview between Emily and I. We talk about product design, what are her different questions regarding DeFi, designing in DeFi, and a few other interesting topics regarding what you need to do in order to get into the crypto space, into DeFi, a bit about my knowledge and experience. So I hope you enjoyed this and like and subscribe.
Well, nice to meet you, and thank you for hopping on this call. I know you're super busy, so really
Nice to meet
appreciate
you
it.
as well. Yeah, I'm glad that you're interested in stuff and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm still pretty new to
Hmm.
especially like the Web3 space, so I don't personally know too much.
Yeah,
Mainly have heard things from Andrew, but
yeah.
I I'm very new to the space.
Hmm. And you're right now in university, right?
Yeah, so I'm in my last year, and I this year I did a grad program in information science.
Hmm.
So I'm super interested in like design and UX research, especially. So um, yeah, I was really curious because I know that you're a product designer and you do a lot of design in the Web3 space.
Yeah,
So I think that's super interesting to me, especially since I know nothing about the space.
sure. So in your so you basically you're at a university and like one of the classes that you have is related to product design or not? I'm just curious.
I've taken a few like related classes in the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
I currently yeah, they have a bunch of like HCI courses like human computer interaction, and um yeah, I think I've a lot of the classes I've taken that even if they aren't directly related to product design, there's some they focus a lot on like design principles. So like for example, I'm taking this data-driven web apps class, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a very like D3 JavaScript data visualization class, but it's really interesting because my professor really emphasizes like the UX of like this data visualization. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting how like design kind of just weaves its way into like everything.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm like amazed how, you know, there's not so many universities that actually focus on product design. Like, if you
Mm,
look, I think I was speaking to someone and she wanted to get specifically into product design, and the only one she found was somewhere in France, like in Europe, and there was
oh,
somehow another one in Berlin. But just I do feel like just opposed to computer science, it's
mm,
like it's quite big. Like it wasn't so big maybe 10 years ago, but right now
mm,
it's the differentiating factor in a lot of products. And I'm quite
mm.
surprised to actually see how they're not focusing on it too much, to be honest.
Uh,
Yeah.
I feel like I hear a lot of people either pivoting from like computer science or graphic design even to product design. I think
Hmm.
I see that trajectory a lot.
Wow, where do you see that?
I've talked to like a few like graphic designers who pivoted into like product design,
Hmm.
and I know a few of my like computer science classmates, they end up pursuing product design as opposed to software engineering. Um, so mainly like some of the people I've like encountered here and there.
Of course, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
How about your? Oh,
yeah, so about me. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so I've been doing product design for maybe 7 or maybe 8 years, and the way I got into it was that I didn't know about it. I was doing my university in something called cybernetics, and then I did something like business administration. I didn't know I was a creative person until I met this guy in London and he wanted me to work on his app, and I was like, dude, but I don't know anything about app design. Like literally I don't know anything. He was like, Andre, I'm doing it by myself and I don't know anything about it. And just by paying you $10 per hour doing it, it would still, if you can do it, like if you can do a better job than me, which I'm not a product designer, it would be still a better investment of my time. So that's what he told me, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna, fucking learn this. So I started learning it from YouTube videos, like, like imagine 7 years ago they were designing it in Photoshop. I didn't even have Photoshop. I was designing things in PowerPoint.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was,
that's so cool.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was initially also super intimidated by just the concept of design because I saw people using Photoshop and I just saw how complex the software is and I was like super hesitant. But yeah, that's so interesting. I'm curious like why you decided to like continue in the direction of design and since you previously were not a designer.
sure. So I was in a point in which I didn't know what to do. Like my mom literally, she was like, "I'm gonna get you a job working for a company selling leasing, like contracts." And I went there and worked there for literally 1 week. And I said, "Sorry, I cannot just do. I just cannot do this. I cannot call another person and sell him leasing contracts."
Mm-hmm.
So well, I was having this conversation with her, and I was like, just give me 3 months and let me figure out what I want to do. And to be honest, it was just a thing of trial and error because when this guy gave me the task and he says, design this, I was getting a rush every time I was doing something. Like I was getting this rush of passion. I was so happy with things that I was designing. I was just showing everyone. I was like, look what I've designed. Even like if it wasn't so exciting for them, they would be like, yeah, that looks nice. I was like super excited, I was like, and immediately I felt like I was doing something important because as when I was young, I like the only thing I wanted to do. I wanted to feel I was contributing to something that was important. That was my thing. That I just didn't want to do a basic thing, right? I didn't want to like sell, leasing or stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure I was. So that gave me working on this guy's app and the idea that he had. Like it was an app like kind of like a Twitter, but the thing was that you would like. You would complain about companies. So it was an app that you would complain about companies, and in a way, people would gather and would crowdfund money in order to sabotage companies, but in a creative way. Like they had things like sending a guy dressed as a chicken and rioting in front of the company's headquarters because they fucked another guy on his bills or something like that. I just felt like I was contributing to something. It was fun, and I thought I was contributing to something really big. And what made me, just to answer your question, like what made me continue in design was just this rush of passion that I was feeling, seeing that other people were valuing my work, and feeling that I was doing something creative. Like at the end of the day, I was just looking at what I was doing. It's like, dude, this is really good. Like I'm really good at this. Like I guess yeah, that made me yeah. And also there's that thing, like when you're really into the flow and you're designing something, sometimes you're forgetting about yourself. The flow state of when you're doing
Yeah.
something. If you're doing that and you're doing the thing that you love, you just don't feel like you're, working, right? Like just don't feel like you're working. Like it's not the job.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I would have done it for free. Like when I was designing it, I was like, I would do this for free. Like it's just cool that people give me money, but yeah.
Definitely a great perk. Yeah, I'm curious like how did you get into like blockchain and like Web3 for example, like as a designer? Like
Yeah.
what I guess what how did you like discover it and how did you learn how to design in that
Yeah.
space?
Yeah. So about 3 years ago, someone from France contacted me. I'm living in Barcelona, so on my Dribble profile, it said Barcelona, and I think they found me there. And they said that they're looking for someone to work on a crypto project. So this was right a bit like at the end of the last bull cycle with the ICOs and everything.
Mm.
So I was like, yeah, you know, like crypto sounds like the future. I didn't know anything about it. I went and meet the guy. He gave me the job. It was like it was still a freelance project. He was paying me like a monthly contract fee. But 1 year working for them, I got to learn a lot about you know how crypto functioned, because coming in from a healthcare like a healthcare or social media, or mostly like consumer faced products. I was building consumer faced products before, and coming into the crypto space there were a lot of things different, like things like onboarding a user and signing them up and not having a password. And I needed to understand these things from a technological point of view in order to um, design things better for people. And
Mm.
we were doing a lot of usability testings, and everything wasn't easy to understand, but everything happened gradually. I didn't learn anything at the beginning. At the beginning, to be honest, I was in conversations with people and I didn't know what the hell they were talking about most of the time. Like they were asking me, "Do you know what proof of staking is?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I know, I know. Okay, okay, okay." I didn't know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's really cool. How did yeah, I know since like when you first entered, like I feel like it's, at least personally, it sounds very intimidating. How did you I guess manage to uh like overcome like the barrier in or the gap in understanding of like crypto
Yeah.
before you knew how to before you understood the technology as well? How were you able to like design for
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, I knew that I had an advantage, and that advantage was that even though these people know about technology, um, the only thing that was keeping me from understanding my fears was that my fear of them you know, like of them somehow judging me because I don't know. In the end, I thought it was only in my head, and people were actually very happy to actually share their knowledge with me. Even if I sounded stupid at one point, they were still very happy to just answer my stupid question. It didn't matter because these people are very passionate, right? Um, when I figured that out, I was like, all right, like it's just in my head. And the second thing was I had an advantage because I understood the user. So even if they knew about the technology, I didn't need to know about technology because I understand user behavior. Like users don't need to understand technology. I mean, right now technology is everywhere in crypto, but in
Mm.
like a few years from now, technology, in my view, will become like invisible. It won't it won't be like yeah, we have the best liquidity pool tokens and the best MMS. No one will care about that. I feel people would mostly care about what the value is for the user. So when you're doing a usability test and you're seeing how a human being interacts with
Mm.
an interface, that's all you need to know. Like you don't need to know technology, you just need to know the human behavior, right? Like if
Oh.
that human needs to understand the technology, you share that through a tooltip or you share that through something else. But the underlying technology is, you know, not for designers. Our role
Mm.
is to bridge the human to the interface, and that interface needs to be with less friction as possible.
Oh, did you ever encounter any like challenges, like either communicating with people who are developing the technology, especially when you're, has there been any difficulties in terms of like navigating the technical gap in conversation?
um Yeah, so there has been few things regarding that, to be honest, but they were like, I don't know, like I whenever that happens, to be honest, I try to, you know, ask a different question so that they can explain that
Mm.
through a different way, right? So I try to take it logically so that they can. I'll be like, can you take me through a use case of that? Like I will always say that, right? Because when you say to someone, take me through a use case of something, then you say, okay, user goes here and he does that, and then you start envisioning like that flow. So
Uh,
so you know, like yeah, whenever I don't understand something, I say, okay, what's the use case? Let's go through the use case, you know, and that simplifies things because that also takes them into the point of putting themselves in the perspective of the user.
Oh, got it. Yeah, that's actually such a um good hack. I think I'll definitely use that in the
Exactly.
future. Yeah. Um, yeah, another question I had is like, in terms of, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
No worries.
What was my question? um, yeah, I guess another question is like, oh yeah, I just remember my question. So I know like you freelanced a lot. So I'm curious about like how was it like to be like a freelance designer too?
In which way?
Um, I guess like yeah, how were you able to like find clients and was it difficult to I guess like make sure that you are uh yeah, was it difficult for you to like find different work to do?
So, when I was working for social media apps and healthcare apps, I was going on Upwork and I was like looking at different projects, but there were a lot of projects in that area, so it was easy. When I decided to go into the blockchain space, and then I quit working for the company that got me into the space. I knew that I had to do an entry point, and the way I did that was I went and found like Instadap. Instadap is like this platform of for loans. I didn't understand what they were talking there, and I understood that I could do things a bit more differently. I just tried to figure out one section of that product. It was just like their loan section or something like that. And I was like, okay, I can do things differently just from usability perspective, and I can make this product look better just from an aesthetic point of view. And what I did was I did for free a redesign for them. I wrote an article about how I redesigned it. They saw it and they shared it on their social media.
Oh.
And the cool thing about doing something like this is that whenever you want to go for a niche and you're doing something like this, people who come to you will probably come because of the content that you put out, and that they would see that you are someone who can deliver. They would see that you are someone who can actually deliver the project, because their main concern, like when a client comes to you, their main concern usually is not about money. Sometimes it is, but sometimes usually in crypto is not. And what they want to be sure is that you're the one who is going to complete their project, that you can do their project. And if you have like 1, 2, 3 articles and you say, this is how we did this project in 2, 3 weeks, or this is the process that I've followed in order to do this, people will have more confidence that you're actually gonna pull through.
Okay. Yeah. A kind of unrelated question, but from your experience, like designing like both like in crypto and non, what are the main differences that you've noticed, especially as you design? Like, what are the main differences that you found between designing in both spaces?
Sure. So yeah, that's a good question because there are obviously a lot of things. One of the main stuff is that usually when you're designing consumer-facing products, you don't want users to feel confusion in any way. The problem with crypto designing, especially for DeFi, is that there are a lot of points in which there would be confusion, right? Because it's so new. There's so many things that are so new, and some people know them because they've been accustomed to what's happening in the space for a while, but a lot of people don't know what's going on there. And that's one of the things that you need to make things intuitive. And when you cannot make things intuitive, you need to use things like tooltips in order to inform the user. So I guess like one of the big things is that crypto projects tend to have a lot of tooltips, and other consumer-facing products like healthcare, you might not need those tooltips because the whole experience might, from a usability perspective, might flow very very nicely, and people would understand it because they're used to using this kind of apps. However,
Mm.
crypto stuff like tends to have like, because you really need to inform the user about what's going on. They need to, and as opposed to consumer facing products, if you go to like, I don't know, like this new app that comes and the app shows you a tutorial, you're gonna skip that right away. You're not even gonna look at that tutorial. Like that's
Mm.
what people do, right? Like if you see a tutorial for an app, you're
Yeah.
not gonna look at it. But what I found from usability testing is that in crypto projects, everyone looks like, there's a tutorial. All right, let me look. Like, everyone would go through that, right? Like they want to be educated, they want to learn. So users in this kind of projects, they especially want to, they're looking for education. They want to be educated. So yeah, that's kind of another interesting aspect of it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Do you think that in the future, how do you think that will change in the future? Like, do you think, yeah, like what do you see as like how the future of like designing in the space is going to look like?
So I've had this conversation in the clubhouse recently, and I asked them the questions like, do you guys think that in the future, the technology will just be, kind of invisible? Not invisible, but like just not focused on technology, because right now everyone is so excited about technology, and that's why the exact things that are going behind, are there, like vaults and LP tokens and all that stuff and curve and whatever, everything is there. But I'm just curious where we would go, because I feel like the technology will go in the background, and then there's the value to the user in the front, like facing you. And I think right now it's kind of getting more clear. Like it's kind of getting more clear what that value for the user actually is, right? We're still playing around with the building blocks, with things. We're still experimenting, but things are starting to kind of form into some use cases. It's not very clear at the moment, but we do see some use cases that you don't even need to focus on technology. Like if you look at Polymarket, for example, which is kind of a betting a betting platform on crypto,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's one of the use case that you don't, you mentioned crypto because it's their value proposition, but probably they don't even need to kind of mention a lot of the technology that's going behind it. Maybe for the
Mm.
crypto people they do, but for new users, they don't. And like if you look, like there was another conversation going around, because people who believe in technology think that also users believe in technology, and that's not true. Like
Mm.
users at the beginning, they don't care about signing the all that friction at the beginning with the login
Mm.
and all those phrases. They don't care about that. If they could sign in with email, that they would be fine with it.
Mm.
So that's how I see it. Eliminating friction and making it easy for people to be here, and putting technology in the background and focusing on user behavior and making the product as frictionless as possible.
Ah, that's so interesting. Actually, I'm really curious, like where do you think you see I like in terms of like mass adoption of like crypto? Like, do you think that's something that's very possible in the like near future? Because I know like right now it's still kind of new. It's been around for a while, but I think people are more people are finally starting to hear about it.
Yeah.
But do you think like in the near future, like how is it going to be different?
It's getting close, to be honest. And one of the things that's going to make that very possible is what's happening right now with all these platforms. But the other thing is what's going to make it possible is when the money is actually going to be there. Like the money is there right now, but right now I'm having actually problems with. I'm getting paid in crypto, and I'm having problems uh, transferring that to fiat and like paying my rent. Like if I could literally pay my rent with crypto, then I don't even, I probably not use that to pay the rent, or just like withdraw like small amount of money. But the moment that probably you would be able to pay for your ice cream and go in a
Mm.
club and pay with USDC or stuff like that, I think that's the point where things will get really interesting, right?
Mm,
Because
yeah.
the money will be there, and then you'll be all these possibilities to play around with it, you know.
Mm. And when it gets to that point, where do you see like the typical like the money that we use currently, like like existing like financial institutions like banks, for example?
It will make things really boring, to be honest. That will be a really boring space, to be honest with you. Like, it's really boring right now. Like I saw a tweet. Someone said like, I've never seen someone go into DeFi and then be like, oh, I'm gonna go right back where I came from. No, like everyone stays because it's exciting. You know, like it's the education aspect of it, and it's doing things like so easy, like so fast, so easy, interacting with these platforms, getting a credit, you know, joining a LP token, voting, you know, joining a crowdfunding for something. I don't know, like what all of this stuff that would be possible. And then when you think about traditional money, you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go to this betting site. I'm gonna put in my card. I'm gonna press. Ah, it's not working. Ah, okay, I forgot the number. Oh, I'm gonna, you know, like it's so boring. It's so slow. It's so, you know, when you can just do that
Mm,
from clicks from different platforms, it's gonna be like really exciting, you know?
yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I'm sure like the banks and financial institutions right now are kind of like what's this new thing coming in? Um, yeah, I know we're like nearing the end of our time, so um,
I mean, I'm
yeah, I
fine to
guess
go over if you don't have anything to do. So, yeah,
yeah. One question I
yeah.
had is like, what was the most helpful for you when you started learning, or like in or I guess in today, like right now where crypto is at, like what do you think it would be the most helpful in terms of like learning how to be a better designer in this in like crypto, for example?
Learning to be a better designer in crypto.
Mm,
Well, there's kind of three things, I would say. So the first thing I would say like it's knowledge. So knowledge is just like, you know, how we were discussing at the beginning, understanding the technology, but just like, you know, from a conceptual level, so that you would know, you know, the seed
mm,
stuff, the, you know, stuff like that, just regarding the how the user interacts with the platform. You know, don't need to understand things from a deep perspective, just that knowledge. One of the places you can go for that is actually a YouTube page called Finematics,
oh,
which explains things quite easily. I mean, you just need to be there and put pen and paper and just go through that, but it kind of explains things really nice. So I would say knowledge is one of them. The other one is applied knowledge. So applied knowledge meaning like literally go somewhere and spend a few gas tokens and understand how their current interfaces work. And I would advise going to the ones who do a good job, and you know, you can research who are the top DeFi platforms out there, and see, you know, like just go and see how, after you learn about the LP token, go and actually invest in a LP in a pool, right? And see how that is from an interface perspective. That's what I
oh,
recommend. So actually applying that knowledge that you've learned, because if you have these two, then you know what's going on. I mean, you can actually, you know,
mm,
you can map that out. The next thing is doing a usability testing with the user. So
mm,
when, you know, like do your first onboarding or do like design something in Figma and have someone test it and see how their confusion, see how they interact with it. That will give you a lot of aha moments. That will, you know, put you in the user's perspective, and you then understand how they interact with, you know, use your empathy in that regards.
Oh, okay.
And the next
Yeah.
thing, and one of the other things I wanted to share with you, and actually I've been in this clubhouse with the founders, and I've asked them this question specifically because Andrew asked me about it, and then we are now having this call, and they actually, when I asked them like, what would you actually recommend, like for someone who wants to get into crypto, what's the first thing that you look at? And there were founders from Dharma, there were founders from Zerion, Zapper, and a lot of this big Argent, and a lot of this big, and they all said like the recurring theme in what they said, the pattern, they said that they should be excited about crypto
Mm,
and even more about their product if they wanna, if they wanna, get it. Like excitement in a way is the number one drive for them to be able to get someone, to recruit someone. And yeah, that's what they said.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
Sure.
I'll definitely take a look at that YouTube account. Yeah.
Of course.
I definitely feel like I don't really have that much like technical knowledge about what goes on in the back end, but so yeah, I think that's been like my main barrier because I feel a little bit intimidated, like all the more technical people talking about like all these different things I've never heard of before. So yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for like sharing your knowledge and your experience so far. I think this was super helpful.
Whenever you feel like you're intimidated by something, just know that they don't know anything about design.
That is a good point. That is a great point.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true,
definitely
and
reassuring.
that's true. They come to you for design questions because you're gonna look at that. There's design, they design something. They're gonna, and it's like that. That's not how you should do it. And then that knowledge, right? They know their knowledge.
Mm,
You know your knowledge, and that's how you build an awesome product.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a really great point. I think that's also very reassuring too. Um, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I don't really have more questions, but yeah, this was a super interesting conversation. I feel like I learned a lot. So yeah, thank you so much.
I'm happy I could be helpful. Yeah. So happy, very happy I could be helpful for that. What's your next step?